please welcome Alex Melnitchouck.
Thank you, Andrew. Always my pleasure. Andrew, thanks again. I think it was a great idea to have a presentation about soil and remote sensing before this one, because I've been on stage many times, and every time I think, what kind of a role exactly I'm going to play on the stage. I've been a university professor. I was a technical geek. I was a nerd. I was an entrepreneur. I was a salesperson. I was a preacher. And I was an advocate of farming. And I feel like today I'm going to advocate precision agriculture or digital agriculture in a very practical way. Yeah, I think it's very logical. I was really enjoying the previous presentation because I remember the first satellite imagery from Planet. At that time, the company was called Cosmogia, and it was pretty basic imagery. And it's so great to see how everything is evolving. And, you know, just recently I had a chat with a journalist, and the journalist was asking me, said, can you explain in one phrase, how do you feel about precision ag? I said, I cannot explain in one phrase. I said, I can explain in two. He said, explain in two. I said, okay, this is number one. I feel like an angry bird. And the second one, I feel like an easy button. So he said, can you elaborate a little bit? So I told you I cannot explain that in one phrase. So I will try to elaborate everything what I just said in more detail during the presentation. So my name is Alex Melnitchouck. I'm Chief Technology Officer, Digital Ag at Olds College. And well, of course, before moving to the main part, I just want to give you a snapshot of Olds College and the Smart Farm. Olds College was established over 100 years ago, and pretty much everybody here knows about the college. It was established as an organization to teach the local farmers how to farm in the conditions, pretty tough conditions of Western Canada. So the college has always been at least a few years ahead of the industry in terms of utilizing different technologies. So in the last few years, with creation of the Smart Farm, it eventually evolved into the Smart Ag ecosystem. That's the way we call it. So we have over 3,500 acres of land, including arable acres, hays, pastures. We took over a plant breeding organization called Field Crop Development Center in Lacombe. And yeah, we use the Smart Farm as a living lab for academic purposes, for applied research, and for developing many new cool things. Okay, let's, before moving further, let's decide on some terminology. You heard many times precision ag, precision farming, digital farming, satellite farming, smart farming. Let's structure everything in the first place. So precision ag, or precision farming, is a farming concept based on utilizing navigation systems and geographic information systems to manage field variability. That's what precision ag is. So digital farming is a broader term. Typically, it includes any kind of digital technologies that can be used for collecting, analyzing farming information, for decision making, and any kind of analysis. So any digital technologies is digital farming. Smart farming is an even broader concept. So in my own terminology, when I talk about smart farming, I include pretty much any kind of innovative technologies, including digital farming, including biotech, including AI, including microbiology, including new chemistry. So pretty much anything that robotics goes under smart farming. So if you look at different websites, there are so many different concepts of smart farming, and you don't have to even memorize or focus on the source. All those different concepts there are many of them. They're all correct in their certain way. So we're not here to argue what is right or what is wrong. There are many different concepts of smart farming. What we're going to focus on today is more on the digital side, and again, just a couple of more terms. Digitization typically refers to converting something into digital format, but we're talking about digitalization, which typically is referred to transformation of the industry. So right now we're living in a very interesting time when the whole industry is being transformed, so being digitalized. As usually, devil hides in details. So this is a picture, one of my favorites from a McKinsey Global Institute. It shows digitalization of different industries. So of course, on the top you see telecommunication, media, finances, and things like that, and agriculture and forestry is all the way to the bottom. So why is it so? And the reason for that, because in digital agriculture, we just uncovered the tip of the iceberg. So it's very easy to digitize telecommunication. It's digital by its nature. It's very easy to digitize media, easy to digitize money. But how would you digitize wheat, barley, canola, corn, soybeans, potatoes, anything? So you still have to put rubber boots on, and you have to grow physical assets. And that's the actual reason. So if you add weather variability, if you have differences between different regions, and mentality and different crop varieties, it's such a huge system that is actually way more difficult than any kind of rocket science or anything like that. So that's the reason why agriculture is still at the very initial stage of its digitalization. So another thing, so if you look at the number of smartphones in the world, we're talking about several billions. So if you look at the number of farms, we're talking about a few millions, probably a few hundred millions, but if you look at the number of farmers actively using innovative technologies, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. So the customer base is shrinking by 98%. So the cost of developing new technologies, new digital technologies in agriculture is much higher than in any other industry. And that creates additional challenges. So I don't know how many here in the audience remember different science fiction movies from 50s, 60s, even 70s. So year 2020, we're traveling between remote galaxies, discovering new planets. So just look what they have behind them. There are weird panels with CRT screens and buttons and things like that. So how many people 50 years ago were able to foresee something like that? So about 10 years ago, I had a chat with a futurist. He did a great presentation how the future will look like, and I asked him the question, okay, what do you think how the agriculture will look like in 20, 30 years? He thought for a moment, and then he said, you know what, you won't like my answer, but it's going to be almost exactly the same as it is now, because you still have to grow crops, and you still have to utilize field machinery. The only difference, he said, I foresee, it will be more based on technological solutions. It will be more focused on site-specific, maybe plant-specific crop management, but that's the best answer I can give you. And I don't know what to tell him, but I would probably agree. So, okay, now let's make a quick trip to the past and just recent past. So what were the successful examples of digital technologies in agriculture. So navigation and guidance, when it first was introduced into the industry, it picked up like that, just exponentially. Why? It's because, of course, it solves a certain problem. Second thing, you don't have to do anything, you just, other than buying and successfully using it. So if you think about reducing overlaps because of precise navigation and saving up to 5% on crop inputs, why wouldn't you go for it? So another one was sectional control. So that's in combination with navigation and guidance. First, when it appeared on the market, it was almost like a magic. So 5% less seed, less fuel, less fertilizer, less pesticides, and no regulation, no restrictions, no administrative enforcement, just pure technology. So if you add field logistics, so this screenshot I took from Verge Agriculture. So if you have a pretty weird shape of the field, that becomes very important. So if you pre-plan your operational pattern in the field, you can save additional 5% on crop inputs. Especially if you're seeing a field like that, I call some parts of the world, like Eastern Canada, Eastern Saskatchewan. I call it precision agriculture hell, because I don't know how would you farm there. But with sectional control, that was really a successful example of how digital technologies can be applied in the industry. About 40 years ago, whoever was farming 1,000 acres was a large farmer. Now it's probably less than an average in Western Canada. So because of consolidation in the industry and people buying and renting more land, we see farms being scattered over the prairies. So in addition to that, fleet management and farm logistics became very important, very successful application of digital technologies in the farming. 10 years ago, every mega farm in Eastern Europe, every mega farm in Brazil, they already had something like that. And that farm logistics and fleet management, that was the application number one for them. So again, the reason why all those technologies were successful is because you start using them and the process is streamlined, if not 100% automated, so the human intervention was pretty minimal. So remote sensing is another successful application. And well, of course, I don't want to even compete with Cassidy. He did a great presentation on different applications of remote sensing. From my standpoint here, I just believe in remote sensing because it has fantastic, unprecedented scalability. So if you look at that satellite image, I don't know how clear it is, but it's an image from DMC. That's where my green dot is. That's Edmonton. Right here is Kindersley. So with one scene, you can cover huge areas, and for any field within that area, you can easily extract the information about crop conditions and convert that into a field condition map. So that's great. And remote sensing information is successfully used for crop classification, yield forecast. I know some grain traders, they're quite skeptical about what Statistics Canada and USDA provides, but I still believe that application of remote sensing is still a successful example because it works and many people use it. Telecommunication, farm connectivity, that's the work in progress. And I think that's one of the next big things in the ag industry. I heard from a few people, okay, what do you think, if I have internet in my fields, how's it going to make everything better? I said, well, you know what, I don't know, but what I really know if you have internet in every field across North America, if you have high-speed internet, in 5 or 10 years, you will not recognize the agricultural industry. Same way as the internet changed our lives, I strongly believe that in case we have high-speed internet in every field, there will be a huge, huge boost to the whole industry and a huge number of different new technologies and opportunities being developed. Okay. Let's gradually move to the challenges. Some of you probably saw the next few slides several times when I presented. Field variability. So variable rate technology is one of the most interesting things used by the agricultural industry. At the same time, it's one of the struggling technologies, and I'll explain that word in more detail. So every field has variability. We have areas with lower, higher, medium yield potential. That's like a no-brainer. I collect pictures of variable fields. I have aerial photos I took from the plane from over 30 different countries. I've never seen one single field with no variability on it. Even in Red River Valley or by Amsterdam, every field, even if it's almost flat like a table, has variability. Okay. The challenge is, that's where the complexity comes into play. So when we're talking variability, what does it mean? It's not about having good or bad soil. It's not about having good or bad yield. It's about having a combination of many, many different factors. I usually use a quote from one of the publications, about 140 base factors influencing the development of crop yield. Okay, we're talking about varieties, crop rotation, tillage, agronomy, fertilizer, and some operational things. And then we're also talking about, of course, soil organic matter, the concentrations of main nutrients in the soil, moisture, micronutrients, pH, topography, growing degree days, wind speed, direction, precipitations, many, many different factors. Okay. How many experts can take into account all those factors? That's where the complexity comes into play. So I showed this slide in one of the growers' meetings. I said, yeah, that's the field from Kentucky, US. It's a corn yield map. And the variability of yield, once we remove all the outliers between lowest and highest yielding zone, was over 500%. There was a guy sitting on the front row. He said, yeah, that was a bad American field. Show me a good Canadian one. So of course, I did my homework, and I was prepared for that. So the variability was over 1,000%. So that field, that yield data set came from a very credible farmer, so I don't have any doubts about the quality of data. So what does it mean in terms of field management? So if we look at any map, I just use satellite imagery here, for example. In many cases, any geospatial map, whether it's soil electrical conductivity, gamma ray spectrometry, grid sampling, you name it, imagery, every map can be explained. So if you look at different parts of the field, low, high productive zones, everything can be explained if you know that. So one of my jokes, if you want to see 5 precision ag consultants starting a fist fight, just close them in one room, give them a couple of drinks, and ask how they delineate management zones. So, so from my standpoint, that's not the right question. It's not about how do you delineate management zones, because any kind of management zones delineated on soil EC or imagery or grid sampling, eventually they will probably bring more benefits than expenses. The challenge is to streamline everything, to make everything like this, easy button. So that's the low-hanging fruit. So if you look at AutoSteer, you just buy and you enjoy it. That's why AutoSteer picked up like that. If you look at variable rate technology, of course, yeah, you have to find the service provider. You have to delineate management zones. You have to collect soil samples. You have to get the results back. You need to decide on your yield goal or goals. There are so many things you have to do. You have to work with hardware. Sometimes the hardware doesn't want to communicate with your machine. Okay, so right now it's more work. So potentially that brings benefits. But okay, how do we streamline that? So that's one of my favorite parts, and that's where I wear my Angry Bird hat. So why Angry Bird? Because we're moving to the snake oil part. So one of the main challenges of digital agriculture is underestimating complexity. So for some reason, and in this case, I want to be a strong advocate of practical precision farming. We have to respect the depth of expertise, because if you're going to be a credible precision ag specialist, you need to understand many different sciences, including soil science, crop science, plant physiology, GIS, remote sensing, navigation, hardware. You have to be in a certain way an agricultural engineer. You need to understand agricultural economy and many different things. So I feel pretty bad for precision ag industry when I see smart guys who have never done any field work, and they come to the ag industry and they use how much money they raised as the main criterion of their success. That's not how it works, or that's not the way how it should work. I think we're doing good on time. I think I'll tell you two stories. One story, we did an interesting exercise in the classroom with the students at Olds College. So I was explaining how to do management zones, how to delineate management zones, and we tried to play a game. So I said, okay, imagine I'm a salesperson trying to sell you manually delineated management zones from Google Earth satellite imagery. And yeah, the game was like that. I'm ringing the doorbell. Knock, knock. Hi, sir, how are you? I would like to offer you an unprecedented precision ag service based management zones delineated based on high resolution imagery. By utilizing those zones, you can increase your yield by up to 10%. You can improve your efficiency of fertilizer by 25%, and it's just $9.99 per acre. So the task was to say no and to explain why not. And instead of that, the response was, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. I said, stop. That was not the task. The task was to say no. Yeah, but you presented everything so well. Well, yeah, that was pretty good for my self-esteem as a salesperson, but that wasn't my goal. So one lesson I learned, this precision ag market is emotional, it's not technical. So like in many cases, we're making our decisions not because something works perfectly, not because something brings benefits to us, it's just something influenced by emotions. And then a few minutes later was a question from the group. Yeah, sir, but if you multiply $10 per acre by 10,000 acres, that's $100,000. Okay, yeah, now you're using your practical thinking, not your emotional reaction. Dreams versus reality. How many times have you heard about satellite imagery being sold to farmers? I heard that about 50 times, if not more, from different satellite companies. You know, we're going to launch a new constellation of satellites and we're going to sell satellite images to farmers. No, you won't. For a number of reasons, because, well, farmers, they're not in satellite business. They're in farming business, which means completely different things. So, of course, that's one of the common misconceptions in Silicon Valley community. Dreams versus reality. Now we have a powerful data platform that will help to collect and manage ag data. Okay, what ag data, and what exactly is the problem that your platform solves, and how does it read different formats from different equipments? There are so many questions like that. So the reality is always more complex than any sweet dreams. Actually, weather stations and weather business is probably closer to the ground or to the reality, because like again, using the same analogy, if you buy a weather station, yeah, you definitely can get good information about the weather in your specific field or a specific location. But you still have to find the best location, install, maintain, calibrate your weather station, and probably to add value-added services like modeling risks of diseases, or making agronomic decisions. So again, the reality is more complex than dreams. That's one of my favorite. We're going to detect crop diseases from satellite or drone imagery. No, you won't. Because the only thing, when you can see diseases from space, you can write a nice letter of condolences to the grower and say, "Dear sir, please accept our deepest sympathies, your crop is dead." Because if you can see, Cassidy, what's the highest resolution of planet imagery currently? 0.5 meter. So if you see a pixel of a dead crop, 50 by 50 centimeters, yeah, you're laughing. But you can't believe how many people still believe in that. So even I took those pictures at the Field Crop Development Center. Those are plots with disease, like the image in the center is loose snot. You can see the leaves are nice and green, but there is no grain in any head. So it's basically almost 100% yield loss. How do you detect that from space? How resolution of imagery is less than 1 centimeter? Well, good for you. Okay, that means your image from each field will probably be bigger than the whole hard drive on your laptop. That's one thing. Second thing, if you look at that image, yeah, you'll see something like this. So it reminds me an old CRT screen. If you look very close to the screen, so you see red, green, blue dots. If you look back, yeah, it starts making sense. You see the picture. So in a certain way, it works like that, in a very similar way when you use the imagery. It's very important to understand what exactly you're trying to achieve. So yeah, if you want to really see any signs of diseases or insects, you really need, well, ultra high resolution imagery. So if you want to delineate field boundaries, you need probably 1 meter or a sub-meter accuracy. And if you want to analyze field variability, if you want to create prescription files for fertilizer application or spraying or variable rate seeding, of course, that imagery from Sentinel or Planet, they will do just fine. So again, instead of just blindly believing that the context, blindly believing that higher resolution is better, just without taking everything into the context, what exactly we're trying to achieve, well, it's just not the right way to think about it. Another bright idea, we're going to predict crop yield in every field from satellite or drone imagery using machine learning or AI. Well, I would like to see that if somebody will be able to predict yield in every part of the field, just using imagery, doesn't matter, multi or hyperspectral, without additional data layers. I would like to see that because I will be the guy who will prepare the paperwork for the Nobel Prize Committee, because it's going to be a revolution in the industry. That picture here, last year on the Smart Farm, we were playing with yield forecast. You know, it was a very challenging year for canola. So our field researchers, they provided their predictions. And as you can see, probably, I don't know, probably small letters, but we had the range of about 300%. So even people knowing the fields, they were not sure what kind of yield to expect in the field, because yield prediction is much more than just vegetation indices or spectral signature from satellite data. Another thing, and that's something we're actively working on the Smart Farm. So anytime we're trying to place our sensors, and we have different sensors in our fields, we analyze field variability before doing that. Because, of course, every farmer wants to know about soil moisture, wants to know about soil temperature, and that's very important information for a number of things. But before doing that, we need to make sure that the weather station or the sensor is installed in the right place, and as you can see, the variability of moisture can be, or temperature can be quite different. Okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to criticize the brightest minds of digital agriculture. How do I feel now, or what do I think about the current state of digital agriculture? I feel like this. I feel like I'm coming to the store or to a car dealership, and I want to buy a car. And a nice salesperson meaning, yeah, sir, sure, this is what we have for you. Like IKEA style of a car. So it will be very easy. So once you put everything together, you can drive anywhere within 1 minute, within 1 hour, within 1 day. You can get anywhere. Yeah, that's a cool car. So yeah, that's not a car. That's a combination of, well, of parts, and I don't know how to deal with them. But that's exactly how I feel about digital agriculture these days, because there are many great ideas, many great technologies, but they're still presented to the industry like this. So whereas the industry wants to have something like this, because you don't want a tire separately, you want a car. So I'm really glad in the last few months I saw that on social media several times. It looks like there's a shift in the mentality of digital ag companies. So it's shifting towards understanding the importance of automation and streamlining the processes. So if you think how exactly the data analysis works in digital agriculture. Yeah, it works as cycles, because you know agriculture is seasonal. So I think the most or the next successful precision ag company will be the one that will be able to complete that cycle, and instead of providing different parts of the car, it will provide the whole car. So, like again, I'm using that example with the tip of the iceberg. So right now we're there, and I really want to see so something like that. So instead of doing 10 different jobs at the same time, someone will be able to just press the button, and do the work. So. Thank you. On the special note, I didn't tell you very much about the smart farm today, and that has never been the purpose of this presentation. But if you're interested in discussing anything I was showing today, or you're interested in having a chat about what we're doing on the smart farm, or you want to discuss any collaboration, partnership, things like that, please connect with me. We also have a tool here. A tool, can you wave here? Talk to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions or address any thoughts or any concerns. So thank you so much.
Are there any questions for Alex? I know you might have had a few conflicting messages from some of our other presenters, so one of the things you talked about, Alex, was having cellular connections in the field. Obviously, that's a big issue right now, and you said maybe it could be in 5 years. Where are you hearing that infrastructure being built from those companies? Are they saying they're going to do that? Where are you hearing that?
Yeah, I would say it's a work in progress. As you probably know, it's one of the projects we're working on the smart farm with TELUS Agriculture. We're trying to build a 5G network across the smart farm. There are some both technical challenges and also technical, logistical, and of course financial challenges, because it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be cheap. Personally, I don't know if it's going to be a 5G station, because I heard a number of times, oh, you know, it will be too expensive to have a 5G station like on every farm. Well, we have a fiber optic cable going to like pretty much every place or every house in Calgary now. Well, yeah, will probably take a while. I think we'll get there. I don't know if it's going to be an expansion of Starlink, or it's going to be just 5G stations, or, but like again, I just want to repeat one more time. Like I strongly believe that if we have it, so you will not recognize the industry. Like probably many of you remember the 90s when you submit your publication to proceedings, conference or journal. Okay, there are requirements, save it on floppy disk, cover with foil. Okay, anybody remembers those floppy disks? Once we have internet, okay, became obsolete. So just imagine every piece of equipment is connected to a certain server, and like we can collaborate on different data layers, sitting in different offices, like we do with Google Docs. There are so many different ideas, and potential is huge. I think I strongly believe it's one of the low-hanging fruits and the most important things that will come to the industry.
Great, thank you.
This isn't a question about imagery, but I'd like to know your opinion on where you'd like to see the dollar per acre cost of digital information inputs come down to for some of this stuff to make sense economically.
Ooh. Well, again, I promise to be an advocate for precision ag and farming. Let's just do a simple math. Okay, if you grow wheat, barley, canola, well, again, with the latest commodity prices, I even don't know how accurate my numbers or my estimates would be. Let's assume you're farming and you're making $200 per acre. Like if you subtract all your expenses from your yield. So let's say you made $200 per acre. Okay, if you use precision ag technologies or digital ag technologies, like if you use imagery or soil sampling and so on, okay, you increased your yield by 10%. So your profit will be higher by probably by 10%. If you saved on fertilizer efficiency or increased your fertilizer efficiency, that's few more percent. So we're talking about $20, $30 extra to where you were before. Okay, those $30 is something that you want to allocate, or that's where you're paying from to those technologies. So if you just provide satellite imagery, again, I'm not talking about any particular company. I heard that 10 years ago. Okay, yeah, you know, we're collecting high resolution imagery, just $10 per acre. Said, well, divide it by 10, then come back and we'll start negotiating. Now it will be probably even below that, because on the top of that you need to process the data. Well, in case if there's soil sampling involved, is of course the major expense. If it's about buying new hardware, that's another piece of expenses per acre and so on. So in fact, there is no easy answer. So eventually you just sit down with a paper and pencil and do the math, and you make sure that everybody gets his piece of a pie. Everybody is happy. Everybody makes at least 3 to 5x. That's how we usually approach that.
This question is with respect to your variability in the fields. Mm-hmm. And the images you showed equipping the fields with sensors. How do you see the implementation of those sensors and survivability of those sensors around the farm equipment running through the field?
Ooh. When you're saying sensors, we're talking about sensors like moisture, okay, because just to clarify, when we say sensor, it can be an optical sensor on satellite, okay. I can give several potential scenarios. In many cases, there is no one simple answer. It might be several ways. So one way, what Cassidy presented before me about using satellite sensors to measure soil moisture, for example. That's one way to approach it. Another way, well, of course, we'll know about offline technologies, like using offline snapshots and then extrapolating that to the field, or embedded technologies. When you have a sensor installed either on the field equipment or on, well, I don't know, some kind of utility pole that can monitor the whole field, or you just do it the way we did it, analyzing variability, determining low or determining the extreme parts of the field and putting sensors in different parts, so we understand how exactly the soil moisture, temperature, crop conditions, how they look across the field. So in one sentence, I would like to see it myself, how that future will look like. I strongly believe in development of real-time embedded technologies driven by the IoT. So I don't know whether it's going to be a new source of power for drone batteries. So in that case, a drone with different sensors can be either optical sensor or thermal sensor or microwave antenna, just flying above field and providing real-time information. Yeah, let's wait for a few more years. We'll see how it's going to develop.
Thank you, Alex, for looking at the different aspect of this dream and reality. So I do not have any question, just a comment I will pass. So when we talk about the reality, it's mostly about the science or the research. And when there is a dream, is a new company coming as a startup and making the dreams. So let's hope for a very fundamental science, because all the sensor we talk about is a very fundamental science behind all the things. And as a human, by nature, we can make the things complex and simple. This is our nature. Like anyone, can we think like this is a simple thing or this is a complex? like variability. So I'm looking like there is a lot of series of variability. You talk about 150 variability in the field. And we are studying like a scanning of the plant. So as soon as you scan the plant, by the fundamental nature of the solar signal, it's just reflecting back to the sensor. Let the sensor decide the signal to deconvolve all those variabilities without thinking about those all 115 variabilities. So my hope is like trust on the science, more fundamental, all those hyperspectral, all those things comes up. It's very pure science coming behind, like spectroscopy, physics, chemistry behind those. And keep the hope of all the things which we are doing as a digital agriculture will, in the coming like decades or whatever, so is surely revolutionize the digital agriculture field. Thank you.
Well, I can say better, and I like you using analogy. If you want to locate yourself on planet Earth, you need to connect to at least 3 different satellites. So if you're connected to one, and your results can be unpredictable. So in our case, well, of course, everything we're doing has to be powered by science, because if it's not powered by science, it's snake oil. But what I'm trying to say, though, if you just have one reading from its sensor and you don't understand the context, the results can be unpredictable. But I really like that slide about the dogs. Usually it's more about ducks, not dogs, but that was a different way to see it. So yeah, if you come back home and you see your coach is, well, is not a coach anymore, it's a pile of shreds, and you have a dog, or you have dogs, and you left the dogs alone in the house for a day, it's very likely that it's going to happen. So yeah, I couldn't say better. As scientists, we have to believe in power of science.
Were there any other questions for Alex? All right. Well, thank you very much, Alex. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Making the trip. Thank you.